I don't know about y'all, but I know like plenty of people that eat like really crap food every day, and they're like in their mid 70s, early 80s, and it's like,
I mean, Warren Buffett eats like McDonald's.
You said Warren Buffett. Dang, he is going to the buffet then.
Yeah. That's a good name. All right, welcome to another episode of the Livin Room Podcast, our final episode of the year. I'm your host, Dom, with the boys, Jason and Bryan. Let's go. Special guest, Tiffany.
Hey.
Am I supposed to introduce myself?
No, he did the intro for you already. So you're good. But if you want to introduce yourself again, then I guess.
Hi, my name's Tiffany.
Hi, Tiffany.
Hi, Bryan.
Not creepy at all.
So I heard you're on a vacation from school, right?
Yeah, I'm here for about a month.
What are you majoring?
Well, I'm currently in PA school right now, which is physician assistant school. So I just currently finished up my didactic year, which is just the in-classroom, your stereotypical boring part of the year.
What's boring about it?
It's just school. Yeah, really, honestly, just really just school, but it's really just all the textbook stuff. You don't really get to do all the hands-on stuff. So that's your clinical year, which is what I'm going to go into, like starting next year in January.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
How much more schooling do you have like left total?
Probably about another year and a half.
Nice.
And how much you finish?
I just finished the first year. Yeah.
You're about halfway then, about.
Yeah, well, I just got through, like, I guess you could say, like, the hardest part.
There we go.
So it's all smooth sailing now?
I wouldn't say that. I would not say that.
It's all
but
easy.
I could say, like, you got through one of the harder parts. Yeah, I would say that.
Is it hard to fail like clinicals?
I would say
because you're operating on people's sure.
I guess it just really depends. I have heard like you can. It's more so like you have like these things called like EOR exams, which is basically it operates the same way as like medical school. So you go through rotation. So you like with our program we have like 7 blocks. So everyone has to go through like women's health, which is like OBGYN. You have to go through like internal med, pediatrics, emergency medicine, all those other like specialties or quote unquote specialties or like primary care. And then you get tested at the end of that block. And so you need to pass that exam. So it's like instead of having us like during our like didactic year, which is like our classroom year, like what we did this year, we just have an exam once every 5 weeks, but like this year,
crazy.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
That's not a lot. Once every 5 weeks. This year I was having an exam like we have like 2-3 exams every single week. I'm not kidding you. Like,
and how many classes were you taking this semester? Like average for the whole year that you
4 or 5.
That's
like
kind of standard full time.
Yeah, it's always 4 or 5, but like we always have 2 or 3 exams every week, which is why it's so fast paced. Because it's an accelerated master's program.
Because on average, how long is the master's program to be PA?
Like double?
It's always around it's always around like 24, 26 months for most programs. Ours is a little bit longer because ours has like a research project that we have to do. But like that's the standard for most like PA programs. Yeah. And so that's how like at least our clinical year is going to like look like. And you can fail the actual clinical if your preceptor, aka like it's going to be like a doctor or another physician assistant that oversees you, like feels like your hands-on experience isn't like, proficient. So then you can't, they won't pass you, like let's just say you can't do the basics, like you're not able to, I don't know, like take someone's manual blood pressure.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. Like that's a little I don't know about that.
That's pretty easy, right?
Yeah, you would think.
Stab the wrong vein.
You're like, yeah, I think the liver is on the left side, right? Yeah. But like for the most part, usually no. And even if you do fail, like the way that they work is so we get 2 electives. So like you get to pick like the fun stuff. So like everyone has to do like some people like, get to pick like they want to go into like specialize in orthopedics, or they want to do like dermatology, or they
Like they're
want to do
specializing in-
or cardiology, like cardiothoracic surgery specifically. They get to pick 2 electives. But let's say you fail like internal medicine, which everyone has to do, because internal
Right.
medicine is basically like family medicine, but
Yeah.
for like adults,
Right.
basically. Then you just have to repeat that rotation and take the exam again at the end of those 5 weeks. So it's not like you get kicked out of the program immediately. You just have to retest.
Mm. Okay.
What made you want to get into the medical field?
Honestly, like my family members worked in healthcare, and I have an older brother that's currently a doctor right now. So I did get a little bit of exposure to it when I
Okay.
was a kid. So,
But did your parents and family nudge you on that route too?
I mean, yeah, they
or-
definitely had an influence
Okay.
on it. But I think honestly, actually it's funny enough because I wrote like my essay like for like why I wanted to go into medicine was
Mhm.
actually because I had like eczema growing up. So
Mm.
like I swam competitively for like 12 years at like
Oh,
a really
wow.
high level, and I suffered from really bad eczema. And what happened was like I would always go swimming, and I don't know if you know this, but you probably do. Chlorine makes it really like makes it worse
Yeah,
because it
sensitive and stuff like
stings.
that.
Yeah. It dries out your skin like crazy,
Right.
Yeah.
and it makes the rash like 10 times worse, and it
Worse.
stings. And like if you itch it, it just bleeds.
Right.
So like I was like constantly like itching and bleeding, and like this is like I guess like educational stuff. I don't know if anyone really wants to hear it.
I mean, just for the audience.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, I guess for the audience.
I mean, for
but-
us. I
I'm
mean,
curious.
we have still-
yeah, this
still
is for
lots to learn in the medical.
educational purposes only,
Right.
not any medical advice. But like a lot of people who have like eczema like also have like a lot of other like allergies. So like you'll see like very often people who have like eczema will have like really bad allergies. So like especially around springtime, you'll see that
Right.
they have like really itchy eyes.
Pollen and
They'll
whatnot.
have asthma, and it's like actually like it's like it's known as like a triad because you'll have all of those. And then especially too like they'll have like even like sensitivities to like aspirin and stuff. So it's like really cool if you like look into it and like dig deep into it. But yeah, like it's like I remember I thought that was really, really cool because I was like, oh, like my skin's always like this. And I was just like
Your
thinking about
curiosity led you into that rabbit hole. to learn
yeah, I
more
was just
about
like,
it.
I was always constantly having to put like steroidal creams on my skin. And it was so hard because I mean, like, I just know that like when you're like a kid, right? Like everyone thinks like you have some sort of disease because they're like, what's
my
on
God.
your
Especially when you're a kid, you're like, oh,
What's
this person
wrong?
got the
What's-
cooties.
That's a real disease.
Yeah.
Stay away from him or her.
Yeah, and honestly, like it really does like impact your like self-esteem as a
Oh,
kid too, because
no
like
doubt.
you know, like you just want to compete, like you just want to have fun, and it's just like it's really hard when
you
like
want to be a chill girl.
yeah,
chill
like
guy.
you just want to compete, and like one, you're itching like crazy, and honestly,
Yeah.
like I just know for me, like it really does impact your quality of life because like you'll be sitting there and itching your skin overnight, and it's actually like it's so bad to the point where like it makes it difficult for you to sleep. So
Do
then
you wear
like
like long? I don't know where it's at. Like, we do like wear long sleeves in order to like at least.
no,
or
and
you
I
have
think
bare
long sleeves makes it worse because
Makes
if
it
you
worse.
sweat, if you
Exposure
sweat,
and
if you
stuff?
sweat, like
Okay.
it actually makes it worse.
Okay.
So you don't want to have your skin like
Covered.
covered because then you keep all that sweat and it like irritates it more. So like
Okay.
I actually like just kept my skin like open with like my steroid cream on and left it overnight.
Mhm.
But like usually overnight it kind of like just like heals itself if you put enough of the like ointment on and stuff.
Yeah.
But like I just remembered it was just so annoying because like eczema is one of those things that just like comes and goes. It's just like it comes in waves, and like it does that throughout your life. You can't really like cure it. It's just more of like an immune reaction thing. Like, you know, like some people have asthma and some people don't.
Mhm.
So like I will have still like flares with eczema and stuff like that, or like with asthma too, but it's just nowhere near as bad as it used to be when I was a kid, because they do say like some people do grow out of it, which I was really fortunate that I kind of did eventually grow out of it, or like my symptoms like really like lessened over time. But some people it's just they're not as fortunate and stuff. But yeah, so that's kind of where like that's what got me, I guess, initially interested in it. And then I guess, just studying medicine, I was always really interested in like anatomy, especially like physiology. I always just thought it was really cool, like how
That's
like
impressive. A lot of memorization.
Yeah,
and
it's a
stuff
lot.
with all that
it's a
stuff.
lot of memorization.
Some of my friends are just like, yeah, they have to like make certain like acronyms in order to like remember
There's
certain
so much.
Trust me.
scientific stuff.
Trust me, I
Nah.
have some horrendous mnemonics to help remember things, but they stick and they do the
Can you share
job.
one?
Right.
What makes it horrendous?
Oh
It's
my
something that we
god,
know.
no.
Educate
Is
us.
this PG-13?
Am I gonna
or-
get canceled for this?
I mean, probably.
What
Or
is
just have
this?
like a giant bleep thing over there, just like
What are you
10
about to
seconds
say?
long.
You could go for it. If it doesn't work, we'll cut it out
What are you
later.
about to
Okay.
say?
I just bleep it. It just get more funny. It's like, what? And like the audience, like, what did you say?
What did she just say?
Okay, I guess.
Okay.
So like there's one specific type of like myocardial infarction, aka a heart attack. And it's called Prince-Metal angina. So I remember, and you have to, there's a specific medication for it too. And there's a specific medication that you can't use it, like you can't use with this group of people. And it's also caused by the group of people that usually get this type of special, heart attack are cocaine users. So so the mnemonic I came up with, and I always remembered, and this was like way back in February that we learned cardiology, and I still remembered it all the way until the final. So my my sentence or mnemonic was, the prince was a fuckboy who said no to babies, and babies was beta blockers, which is the class of drugs, and said yes to condoms, which condoms, the C stood for calcium channel blockers. Like, and I knew
so
that
like a long way
I'm
about
sorry.
it.
No, but,
I
like,
have a
it
better chance of
works.
remembering the scientific name than actually remembering.
But like I remembered it.
I
Or
Everyone
whatever.
functions differently.
And then what's it called? And no more sex. And then the N stands for nitrate. So I mean, like it's really weird, but it works,
Mm.
I already forgot it.
I was like,
You remember the
something-
sentence, but
it's
like I
beta
remember.
blockers,
Beta blocker.
condoms, no sex.
Hey,
Wait, do you write this-
Kevin, when he listens to like the podcasts that I do listen to for like reviews, like he's like beta blockers. That's the only word that he knows.
Do you write all this
Catchy.
stuff down in a journal, or like
No,
it's just in your
honestly,
brain?
like that's like my biggest tip, like especially like for studying and stuff, is that PA school goes through so much material. It's not efficient for you to write out things.
You type it.
You have to like, honestly, you just have to see the material so many times that I think that writing it out is just going to take way too much time. You need to like
About
either
typing it,
reading it, or like typing out the information and just
Yeah, okay.
reading it a bunch of times. I like to just use Anki, which a lot of medical students use.
What is that?
It's just a flashcard program.
Okay.
Mm.
So like you can like, I actually recommended it to Kevin since he's studying for like one of his certificates.
Oh yeah, and also Kevin, our editor, this is his girlfriend he referenced in the episode. Just to make that clear to the
For the
audience.
real fans.
But go ahead.
Yeah. So it's like a flashcard program that a lot of like medical students use. And it's like, I don't really know how to explain it, but it's just like, it's not like your basic Quizlet. It's not like there's just like a front and then there's a back. You can literally like do like this thing called like image occlusion. You can take like, let's say like your diagram, right? And you, let's say there's like a giant pathway, like you have a biochemical pathway and you're like, okay, I have to memorize 10 steps of
That's
like
a choose your own story
glycolysis or something like that with
There's
the
a lot of
enzymes.
A's, B's,
You can
and
literally
C's.
block out like everything and then just quiz you. And it's really like, if you think about it, like, okay, it doesn't seem like that, like, high tech, right? But like, let's say you just simply like, you don't want to copy down these, diagrams and physically do it yourself. You just screenshot it, you plug it into the like card or whatever, and then you can just block it out. So that way you can just physically test yourself that way. Or like, let's say you have like a giant paragraph, right? And then like, you can just take that, copy paste it, and then you can do like these clauses. And basically what you do is like, it's kind of like an ellipse. So you can say like, I don't know, like, I don't know, like, what's it called? Like,
I don't know.
I'm trying to,
I'm
like,
not a grammar
follow-
person.
I know.
What do you mean by
I heard
ellipse?
of an ellipse,
Because
but I can't
ellipse
think
is
of
like
it.
ellipse is like when you have like ... So it's just like, I don't know, like
Oh, I was thinking of something else.
So that's what it's
like
called.
I was thinking
dot
Eclipse,
is a
but-
type
Eclipse.
of fruit.
Yeah.
Like dot is a type of fruit. Like, you know what I mean? And then you're like, okay, like I know what it's
Yeah,
testing
like-
you like on like recall and like all those
Mhm.
other things. So like there's different ways to kind of like test yourself. Or you could even do like type in the answer or whatever and stuff like that. So like you can literally have like, let's say like you just type out the front and like a question and like you need to type out the answer. So like let's say your exam requires you to do short answers. Like you can literally like have it be like a card where it asks you to type out the answer for you in the program. And there's like so many different types of like cards that you can basically design. And like
so you make this or who provide? Like
you can have
or just, like, the
pre-downloaded decks and you
Okay.
can even edit them
because like
and
the
you can make
university
your
or
own.
something could make that or have stuff
Or,
out
like,
there like other
former
students.
students, yeah.
Yeah. Honestly,
Okay.
there's so many pre-made decks, and then honestly, you can add onto your own if you have like
Okay.
lectures that add more information, and so you can kind of customize it yourself. And I just think that it's like super helpful for you to like use both. And I just think that to like maximize like efficiency, like it's good to use sources from multiple areas and then combine it with like stuff that you learned from class.
Mhm.
And I think that that's kind of like what sets you up for a success, honestly. Yeah.
So do all of your classmates use it too, or what?
I don't think everyone uses it. Honestly, I think the reason why like not a lot of people use it, a lot of my classmates stuck with basic Quizlet because one, like Anki seems really intimidating at first because honestly, it looks like, quite frankly, like an engineering's like application when you first open it.
Yeah.
And I remember I was so intimidated when I first saw it until like
And did you use it first time when you're in like PA school, or did you use it when you were like undergrad as well?
No, when I was studying for my MCAT, which
Okay.
is like the exam that you would take before you
Go
go
to
into
your
medical
grad
school,
school.
because
Okay.
I
Mhm.
originally was considering going to medical school.
Mhm.
But the reason why I think a lot of people stuck with Quizlet is because one, like Anki is a little bit more complicated, and two, because of like the turnaround with our exams, Anki is usually better for like long-term recall, because the way that Anki works is that like you get like 4 buttons and it could be like you can say this is really, really hard and it'll show you the card, let's say in like 10 minutes again. Or you
Mhm.
can say like it's like pretty like hard, shows you in
And
12.1 hours.
Anki determines that, or you determine based on
You click these buttons.
Okay.
And like you can set the time of like when you want it to, but there's always a preset time, which I just keep it that way. Cause what happens is like, let's say you say this card is super easy. It'll show, you can put it in the like super easy pile. It'll show it to you in 3 days. But the more you go through the whole deck or whatever, and then the next time it rolls around, if you click super easy, it'll turn to 5 days. Then it'll turn into a month. So it's meant for like long-term recall because like as a medical student, you're not just trying to take a test and forget about it.
Right.
Where I mean, I'm not saying like PAs are trying to. I'm not saying
Some
as a
people
PA
do
you're
that.
trying to do that, but like PAs are the way that our like course is designed is that we're taking the exams and we're like back to back to back,
And
like
most of your
nonstop.
classes like build off of one each other, right? Or
Yeah, I
like
would assume
it's like
so.
your ground floor stuff, and then like your intros or whatever, and then you have like your like intermediate classes that build off whatever the surface
Just
ground floor would be.
I wouldn't say build off because we have different units. Like we literally go from like renal, which is like kidneys basically, and then we
Mhm.
go into like OBGYN, which is women's health, and then we go into men's health, and then we go into cardiology. So like it's all different units. So I wouldn't
Okay.
say like we
Is that a lot of overlap then?
like I
between-
wouldn't say we stack really on top of
Okay.
it. I would say like there could be some overlap, like in terms of like diseases. Like I would say like let's say like certain like renal diseases, right? Because it's in the same area like with like UTIs or whatever. Like you can have certain diseases that overlap, or like just in general, like you'll see some of the same pediatric diseases that get scattered throughout the year. Like you'll have like a certain, like for instance, like you'll have coarctation of like the aorta. That's a cardiology like disorder that's in our cardio unit. However, that's a pediatric disorder that we could technically review in a pediatrics unit, which we didn't really have a peds unit, but like we did kind of go over like, oh, these are all the diseases that are just for peds, like pediatrics, like kids and stuff.
Right.
Mhm.
But yeah, and then that's kind of, I would say like, yeah, it doesn't really like per se like build off of each other. It's just
Okay.
different units, I would say.
So how do you keep all that stuff straight then?
For real.
Because that's like a lot of
That's-
information, a lot of complex
That's a-
terminology.
That's a good question.
There's just so much.
I honestly have no idea. My memory is, I don't know. I guess I just lucked out a little bit with my memory.
Pretty sharp still.
No, honestly, I think that like you just kind of like get really like absorbed into it, and like you just find certain things interesting. You find some things not so interesting. So I guess some of the more interesting things definitely stick with me. And I know if you ask me certain things, I know that like the ones I'm really interested in are like cardiology and other stuff. But
yeah, like the heart attacks.
You ask, like the heart
Beta
attacks.
blockers.
Beta blockers. No, you guys know it now too, not just Kevin.
We're learning a bit.
Yeah,
So.
but like if you ask me like women's health, God forbid, I can't not do women's health. Like, but women's health was like the death of me. I can't do it. It's so hard. Like props to like all the OBGYN people. It's so hard. Like, but yeah, I mean, to get it all straight, really, I would say like, at least for me, everyone's so different. I personally thought like mnemonics was like a really good, like, you know, you do what you got to do strategy for short term. Long term, really, like it depends on what it is. If you're talking like physiology, it really is about having the fundamental understanding of what's going on in the body. There's no other way around it. Just like in engineering, like know why you're doing a certain code, I guess is the way that I would say, like understanding what you're doing and why you're doing it, or like why are patients having certain symptoms, and like why are you like in let's say like pharm, right? What kind of medications are giving? Like the mechanism of action for the medication, like what is it acting on, and then why does it help treat the symptom, basically. So I would say like you try your best to kind of understand what you can understand, and then you know, if you really just can't understand some other stuff, that's where you just kind of go to the mnemonics. And then yeah, pretty much that was my go-to, at least for a lot of it. And like if you can't like that was what I did, at least, because you know I would try to memorize the stuff that I can, but then you know how like you guys probably studied stuff in school where if things start
not at all.
When things start with the same like letters, like if like same terms start with M, and you know it gets confused in your head, like you really just come up with like mnemonics or whatever. That's kind of like the little tricks that I did that helped me a lot. At least in the short term. But then in the long term, I guess it was kind of like, it really is about like understanding it to remember it. And then another thing was thinking about like people in your life who have certain diseases, honestly. Like I know like one of my friends' mom had multiple sclerosis. And I think that also made it help a lot. And also like, just personal experience, really. So like when they talk about the atopic triad, which was what I was talking about earlier, when people have eczema, they have asthma, and they have like a lot of allergies. I had that throughout my life. So like when it was on the exam, like I didn't really need to study that because I grew up as a kid with that, you know? So like when I see a vignette or I see a picture of eczema, I didn't really need to study that rash because I had that rash. So
gotcha.
Like, yeah, I gotcha.
I know that.
Yeah. So like it really, those are also like little things too. And I'm sure like everyone in my class, you know, in my cohort, like they've all had exposures to different things of that sort. So there were certain units that made it easier for them because they've had family members that have had that. Like, and I know that like some people have had family members that died of cancer. So they know, let's say, a little bit more about colon cancer, and they know more about screening guidelines for it because they're like, oh, like my family, like my grandmother died from colon cancer. So I'm like, if only they started the screening at like age 45, like they would have caught this. So they know
that's
more
the thing
about
with like a medicine. It's just always advancing, just how like technology is. It's just like we're always learning from either past successes or past failures, and hopefully whatever the new technology comes out, especially in the medical field, they'll learn to, as you said, to catch things sooner or know how to treat it compared to, oh, this is, or being misdiagnosed. There's a lot of people getting misdiagnosed as well.
Being misdiagnosed is hard. And honestly, like healthcare is trying to gear towards more preventative care and stuff. And like, yeah, catching things like cancer, that's hard.
Right.
So can you specialize as a PA, like how like medical doctors do that?
Yeah. Yeah, we can. Well,
do you know what you want to get into, or?
Yeah, that's for clinical year. I haven't really decided yet. Honestly, I worked in derm as a medical assistant. I would consider derm again, but I really like studying ortho.
Like
I really
your problems. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, no, I thought derm was really cool. I'm gonna be honest with you, the demographic was really hard to work with, but I really like.
And what's the demographic?
No, just like the people. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I mean, like, what is it like? Primarily like 20, 40-year-olds, or like
no, it's just like
males,
sometimes the
ratio?
attitude of the people that come in,
like patients.
Yeah, patients.
Well, like, I was saying, like the demographic is like, oh, could it be like 18 to 40 men or 18 to 40 women? Or
more
trying to get canceled again.
Yeah,
well, the demographic is proven through study. It's not going to get canceled because it's facts.
Yeah,
so we're more likely to be this demographic.
It really does depend. Like it's just more so. I guess it's more so like when you start like when you have like. It like if it's more like a patient that's coming in, like an 80-year-old who's coming in for his annual like skin cancer screening. That's so different. That's just that's usually not the type of people that I would say like that I have an unpleasant experience with. It's usually like for lack of better terms, Karens that come in for their cosmetic Botox.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, like that usually.
Plastic surgery stuff.
And like we don't really, it's not really plastic surgery because plastic surgery is actually a separate specialty. It's usually like, I would say like dermatology is more geared towards like Botox. Like that's more like where they do, because plastic surgery, you would actually have to do like a completely different residency to be, because like with plastic surgery, you're actually like going under a knife. You're cutting up with people. Like dermatologists, like the closest you're really getting to is like something called Mohs surgery, where you are making incisions, but you're not physically. Oh, really?
Yeah, I had a cyst in the back of my neck, so I had them cut it open and drain.
I don't think that's a Mohs surgery though. Mohs surgery is specifically for like if you have like what's it called? I think it's like squamous cell carcinoma. So it's like a specific skin. It's a specific skin cancer. I don't think you have that.
Oh, never mind.
No, but like if you had a cyst or whatever, like that's just more like it's just what we call an IND, just an incision and drainage basically. So I don't think you had skin cancer. So
did you like feel something on the back of your neck, or someone pointed it out or something?
Yeah, they numbed it.
Yeah,
no, I mean, like, how did you know there's like a cyst on the back of your neck? Is it something that you feel?
I had a bump for like a very long. I'm gonna show my medical history. Show
them the back of your
head. No, I had this bump for a while on the back of my neck because it kind of got infected.
Oh,
so it started hurting. I was like, "What is going on?" So like they drained it, and like it stopped hurting, but like I felt it was still there. I felt it was getting bigger.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Went to a dermatologist. And they're like, "Yeah, we could just cut it off."
Cut it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully it doesn't come back.
Hopefully.
But another question I want to ask is, so when you were applying to like grad school or PA school, what led you to eventually coming to like the New York area? Is it like critically acclaimed, or did they give you the most in like grants and stuff like that?
You don't really get grants for grad school. That's like not really usually a thing. It's really difficult to get one like financial aid or like even like big scholarships. You can get like small ones. They do have like I guess like I don't really call it a scholarship. I don't really know what you call it. It's like I don't really call it a program, but like if you agree to work in an underserved community for like a certain number of years, then they will.
It's like people like working in the public
they'll
sector.
forgive your loans.
The public sector, people in the public sector.
Yeah, I think something like that.
Teachers, basically, like they work in like not as developed communities in order to they get their student loans forgiven after 20, 30 years.
Yeah, there's something. There's a name for that specifically for like PAs versus like MDs, but I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Is it similar to the GI Bill, like with the military? But it's
probably something like that. I just can't think of the name of it.
But for them, it's like free college, and that's because it's in law that like serve in the military that you can. Well, if you could get into a school, then like
underdeveloped
get paid off by the federal government.
Yeah, but as back to the question of like why I chose to go to the East Coast. Well, so my mom really wanted me to stay in Chicago, and to be honest, I wasn't like a like opposed to staying in Chicago. When I was applying for schools, I applied to New York. I didn't really think the chances of getting into like New York City was very easy because you have to realize like getting into PA school in of itself is really challenging. In fact, like if you look at the statistics, it's just as challenging to get into like PA school as it is to get into med school now because people don't want to go into residency. People don't want to give up 10 years of their life, in their 20s. And so
talk about loans on top of that.
Yeah, and the loans is crazy. Yeah. And so when I was applying, I was like, I want to like maximize my chances. And I applied to different states because I didn't want to bet, everywhere just in Illinois. So I was like, oh, New York, like why not? So I picked New York, but obviously if you go to rural areas, you kind of have a better chance. But also this school that I was looking at, had like 14 years of accreditation. That's like very, very strong. And they do have hospitals near there. So like you have really good chances of getting, you definitely have chances of doing your rotations and everything. And the nice thing is there's no medical school there. So that means you're not fighting with other medical students with the preceptors. So you get to do more one-on-one learning. And that was, that's kind of like the nice part about it. And so,
and is your university pretty big, or how
it's
many
not
people?
huge. It's a really tiny town. Like it's in rural New York.
It's like small class sizes too, right?
And then honestly, like a big reason why I decided to end up going and choosing it, even though I got accepted into a school in Chicago, was because they gave me an offer to start PA school a year early, actually.
Oh, nice.
So I was actually supposed to start PA school this year in January if I chose to go to this school.
Okay.
And, I was working and stuff, and I was like, I want to get out, and start working sooner,
Right.
and like, you get paid $18 an hour as a medical assistant. I was like, like money isn't easy. So I was like, I want to,
no shit.
I just want to start. I was like, I'm ready to start working, money really doesn't just grow on trees, literally. So
especially if you're going out to New York, probably just as bad.
Yeah, it's actually not terribly expensive when you live in a rural area, but
that makes sense.
Yeah, but I just wanted to really get started working and stuff because
That's fair.
out of college and stuff, like, yeah, like you still kind of feel a little bit like you're a kid, but like I really just wanted to start feeling like an adult and being independent,
I always feel like a kid.
I still feel like a kid.
Yeah.
There's people that are in their 40s and 50s that feel like kids or act like kids.
Yeah.
Saying goes like you're only as old as you feel. So like if you feel like a child still, you're
I still feel like a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom tells me all the time, he's like, oh, you shouldn't be doing these things. These are things that like 10-year-olds do. Like, well, I guess I'm a 10-year-old still.
Guess what, Mom? Google guy.
Loan forgiveness.
Loan
Yes.
forgiveness.
That, yes.
Okay.
Because I know that like my brother was considering that. I don't know I think my brother's not doing it because my brother actually, he's going back to our hometown and working in a hospital nearby the sister high school where
You went to high school?
the sister high school. There's a hospital next to our sister high school, and he's actually going there for
in New York or in
no
Illinois?
here.
Hometown.
Okay.
Yeah, hometown.
Yeah.
And he's, I guess not really for work, for fellowship. So
Okay.
fellowship for this is for medical students, just to preface, not for
Church.
I mean, yeah, not for church. Yeah,
I was so
not for
confused at
church,
first.
and also technically there is fellowships for PAs too, but
Okay.
for specifically for med students, the way that it works is when you specialize as a doctor, you go through residency. And so let's say like for my brother, so he did his residency in internal medicine, and now he wants to specialize in cardiology, and he wants to do specifically non-invasive cardiology because he doesn't want to become like a cardiothoracic surgeon because those hours are god horrendous. So
what makes something invasive?
Open heart
Oh, okay.
surgery. So like, yeah. So like basically like he finished his internal medicine residency. So if he wanted to, he could have stopped his, he could have been like an attending and just had been done with internal medicine, and that would have been his like specialty still, because it's still technically like a
Like
specialty. General. It's still like a general practice specialty, whatever you call it. But he wanted to specifically get like to specialize in cardiology. So like if you go to see a doctor, you will notice and you'll see their name, MD, and then next to it it'll say internal medicine, cardiology. So you'll see all that they did their residency in internal medicine and then fellowship in cardiology. So my brother wanted to go further and like specifically, do cardiology. So he's still got another 2 years.
Dang.
So much schooling.
Which like that's part of the reason.
Learning never stops. It seems like.
Why a lot of people didn't want to like go into medical school, which I mean, I know that's one of the reasons why for me I didn't want to. I just wanted to start getting into the field, start working.
Right.
How much debt on average would you get if you went to med school? For med school, not for PA school.
Tell me about the money. Tell me about the money. I need to know.
Because like some doctors could be making anywhere between like 100 to like 500K, and then how much are you spending for like grad school?
Doctors? Usually,
that's some of the really like low end, or not low end, but like
you'd have to be on the really, really low end. That's like
not like 100, like maybe like 150,
no,
175.
I don't think. Could be if you're in a really
like 250.
If you're in a really, really low end, I would say the lowest end is like 190, 200K, and that's if you're in like primary care. And like that's because you're not, or like family medicine. That's just because you're not specializing. Which primary care, family medicine, that's like on the lower. When I say lower paying end, by the way, I'm just prefacing saying lower paying end for a physician, not by U.S. mean standards. You're not making money, okay? That's way above the average. But for a doctor, that's like on the low end for a salary. But like that would be like the low end for like a doctor and stuff. And then for like PAs, I would say like their average is, if you look up the national like average, it's probably around like 100 to 120K, I would say. Depends on your specialty, really. And then on the really, really high end, if you're going at it with like, let's say you did your fellowship in emergency medicine or critical care, you can go up to 200K actually. So you would be making the amount as a primary care doctor. However, you're also working in critical care, like emergency med, which that level of responsibility and the amount of stress is so different than when you're working in primary care. It's laid back. You set your schedule, so.
Because a lot of those were emergency room, like they're just like overnight, right?
Yeah, this overnight. I will probably still have to do overnights when I do my rotations. Yeah, but that's for everyone.
But it's like consistently though for them, right? Like they would.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Be like
not
emergency
necessarily.
room only though, right?
Not necessarily. Okay. You could technically request like, hey, like, I want to have like certain. You may not get it. Like if you do your job interview, you're like, hey, like I want daytime hours, and like, okay, we only have, like evening shifts. They obviously won't accept. They won't.
Also like seniority stuff too. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And I'm sure. Yeah, and I'm sure there's seniority too. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is that like you can obviously like work with the hospital that you're with and say like, this is my preference. I don't think that they can just be like, no, you have to. But obviously, like as a like ER doctor or physician assistant, you really should be expecting that, because I mean, I don't think you can just be like, hey, patients, can you all just have your emergencies happen during the daytime hours so that I can sleep peacefully at night? Yeah, can you like cut your finger during the day?
Don't do anything stupid.
Please don't do anything stupid during the like time of hours of 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. Please. Yeah, like I don't think you can do that.
Isn't it better to work like night shift too? Because like it pays more money from what I heard. And there's like the patients are usually asleep, so it's like
that's true. And honestly, like with the like nighttime shift, like the majority of what makes it really miserable. Like I haven't like actually worked a shift, but I think what makes it more miserable is like the fact that your whole circadian rhythm is just thrown off.
Yeah.
But I've heard that it's actually more quieter because there just is less people that are usually up by then. I would hope.
Yeah, that's literally what Bryan was saying.
So like it's not like I think the miserable part is more like when you're supposed to be asleep than like just the sheer load of like work, because there's going to be more work during the day, obviously, because that's when people are awake. So I think that's what makes it more miserable than anything else. Yeah. But
Like, wouldn't you get used to it if you just like work night shift constantly?
Yeah. That's usually that's what I'm saying is that like if you always work like evening shifts, I wouldn't say that'd be a problem. I think what makes it more miserable is usually when you're a resident and the thing is your schedule's changing. That's the thing is that like with my brother, for instance, right? He's not getting to work like nighttime shifts for 9 months on end, like he's accustomed to it, right? They're putting him on his nighttime like rotation and like it's like for like maybe like 2-3 weeks and then they flip him. And when they flip him, he gets like maybe 2-3 days, you flip and you're there, you gotta come back during the day.
Not having no.
Oh no! Like you're dying. You're dying. Yeah. Like it's pretty. It's pretty awful.
These 8 hours this time, and then next week, like, no, I have the second shift 8 hours. And then
no,
the
it
next
does.
Week, I have the third shift.
It does mess you up, and I just remember like there was one time my brother was like super tired about it, and like I know my brother doesn't really like to take like sleeping meds or whatever, and there was one time where like my mom was just like, no, just like eat something and then like go to sleep or whatever. We gave like we're just like why don't you just take a sleeping aid and just get yourself to like, you know, go
Unwind.
back like go back to this like regular sleeping schedule that you're supposed to be on. So my mom gave him like a sleeping tablet or whatever. My brother was like, that was awful because my brother knocked out and he was like, that was terrible. I don't want to do that ever again. So my brother's just like wants to like just basically like cold turkey it and just like do it. I was like, all right, like whatever works for you, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Couldn't you just like take melatonin like right before you want to go to sleep and just
I mean I've told my brother that too. And I've also like with my brother, I guess he's very much like he just will like grind out. He's no monsters, no energy drinks, no caffeine. He does nothing. And I don't know how he does
like
that.
Me, then. He's like,
but like, he is a specimen, let me tell you that.
Built different.
No sleep.
I don't think I know many people that that can manage doing that with no caffeine, no nothing. But like somehow he manages to do that. Like there's not even tea there, I'm telling you. Like there's
zero
caffeine. He somehow does that. I don't know how, because I mean I still even need caffeine. So
I feel like you could get away with it when you're young, but then when you're like in your like 40s, 50s, it's like you can't be like your circadian rhythm can't be way too off base.
Yeah. He's also just like in general, I feel like my brother is like able to handle it because he's not like a huge adrenaline junkie, if that makes any sense. Like he can just kind of be like, oh, I need to crash.
It's like normal energy levels.
And like he'll be like the thing is that like I feel like a lot of like I don't know, like a lot of medicine's like very just like fast paced, like, you know, like get yourself awake, like come on, start, like get with it sort of thing. And like that's kind of like that's honestly why I have like an energy drink or caffeine, because I'm just like I need to have my A game on.
How many do you drink a day?
Yeah, I need to get like my A game on. Whereas my brother is just kind of like, I'm going at the pace that I need to go. So this is what you're gonna get. Like, so like honestly, like, you know, it works. And, you know, I'm sure he sleeps better than I do. So
just like wired at like midnight, just like I can't sleep.
Like work. No, like actually though, like I'll be like in the middle of the night, like 3:30, and I'll just like the other day, like during finals, like I like woke up or whatever, and I remember I was like next to Kevin. I was like, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna go study. So I just like roll out of bed and I'm studying the kitchen table at 3:30. My mom like opens her door. She's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm studying."
She's like a little kid.
We're all kids.
Hey, I wasn't alone. My cousin was playing video games.
He's a DJ. He's a DJ for real.
He was playing League at 3 in the. He was playing.
Yeah.
I had company at 3:30 in the morning, so like he was playing League.
League at 3:30 in the morning.
Wait, where does he like on a computer, like near the kitchen or something, or what?
No, his room is like there's the master bedroom right by our kitchen, so he's playing League, and I can hear him clicking and then talking, and then I'm just sitting there with my headphones, like just like grinding out, like, you know, like
just
my
trying to
flashcards.
focus.
Yeah, because I mean, like I just couldn't sleep, so I was like, you know what, I might as well study, you know.
Might as well do something productive.
I'm wired up right now. I gotta do something.
Yeah, no, I might as well. Yeah, and I was like, I'll just crash when I crash, you know.
Just in the middle of an exam, you're like,
oh, that'd be awful.
Yeah.
No. I always usually before the exam, I let myself sleep enough, but it's just like, you know, like right before the exam, that's when I'm like, okay, like I can make do with like not a lot of sleep, but then but before the exam, obviously, like I make sure that I try to get enough sleep. It depends. Like if it's like an exam that I know like I could get away with, then I will sleep 5 hours or whatever. But if it's like an important exam, like my final, I know it's like 3.5, 4 hours long. No, I'm not chancing it. I gave myself
That's
7
insane.
hours.
Yeah, a test that intense. But go ahead, Bryan.
I've seen people like fall asleep during exams, and it's like, I don't know how you guys do this. Like, I'm usually like super like amped up and like anxiety through the roof.
Like you're
it's
on
like,
edge.
I can't imagine just falling
Just
like
knock
asleep
it
in the
out.
middle of an exam.
No, I would say the anxiety definitely prevents me from falling asleep.
Yeah, no, that's
you
what I mean.
you have all the loans on your shoulder. You're definitely not falling asleep.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like one of my friends from like we were taking a calc exam for it might have been Calc 3 in community college.
Yeah.
And one of the smart guys from our class, he finished the exam in like 15 minutes and took a nap, and then he turned in his
What a
exam
guy.
right after.
Oh, but he
I'm
finished
like,
the
what a
exam. That's
badass.
really
Yeah.
good. Like I'm talking about like you straight
It's like a
did finish
Chad
the
move,
exam.
though.
Just the way you just knock out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wake up
Basically.
just in time to like hand in your
Just start
exam.
scribbling.
You just
like,
randomly
I definitely
fill
used
out
it,
bubbles.
Just
It's
start
good.
spelling things.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried to like figure out like maybe you didn't study enough for like the topic, but like you get to the exam and you start like kind of reverse engineering using like questions from other or
Yeah.
information
winging
from
it.
other questions to answer like
using the
previous-
test to take the test. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
It's fun.
I definitely have, and I remember it specifically because we were taking, and I think that everyone in my cohort can like relate, especially like for the endocrine unit. Like most people probably could relate. For like insulin, there's like you guys probably know like insulin for diabetes and stuff. There's like specific like brand names and like the generic names that are always super confusing because there's long acting, short like what's called short acting names, and like we all like normally what happens with drugs and stuff like that for pharmacology is like they're supposed to give us the generic name, not the brand name. And so like those always get confused. And so like when we got onto the exam and they just gave us like the brand name, we were like super thrown off. So we got there, we were like, oh my God. But then like there was another question later on that kind of gave us in the question statement. We're like, oh, so we know that one is gonna be like long, like that's a long acting one. So then we can eliminate the answer from the
Right.
There
previous
you go.
question. So like at least that narrowed down like 2 answer choices. So
Right.
then like
Technique.
yeah, no, but I just
50-50 shot.
no, but I was so disappointed because I remember I literally came up with a mnemonic to memorize the names for all the stupid insulin like injections. I got to the final exam, wasn't there. I was like, okay, that's cool.
Dang.
I was like,
that's
so
the worst.
Yeah.
I was
You
like,
study
it'd
for
be like,
something, expecting it to be on the exam, and it's not
So
on
you're
the
not there.
exam.
Like, what did I
yeah,
study for?
like off the label, I used ChatGPT to look up a way to find a mnemonic to memorize it. And I was literally with like Kevin in Costco, and I was just repeating the mnemonic like 3 times, and like I was like just trying to like memorize it because I was like I was trying to memorize the generic name and the brand name because like sometimes like you don't know which one they're gonna use on the exam. So like
Right.
if you can't memorize the brand name and they use generic, like it depends on which one they use. Like you're screwed if you don't memorize one or the other because then you don't know what they're talking about. So I was just using the mnemonic, and I just kept in Costco when we were grocery shopping. I was just like repeating the mnemonic to myself as I was like trying to
People
study.
walking by just like,
Like,
is
what
she
is she
okay?
saying?
Yeah, I know. Like basically, I was like I think that it was like a really weird mnemonic. It was like no lag for rapid meals, and I was like saying that. Like,
No
so I said,
lag.
I think I was repeating it several times, and I think a lady did give me like
The
a
sign,
random.
no
Like she was
lag
like,
for rapid
she was like, what in the world? And I was
What is
like,
she chanting?
yeah.
Have you considered like maybe like teaching somebody like what you just learned and it helps like reinforce like what you already know?
Like a tutor?
Honestly, like tutoring or like I did think about like if I had the opportunity to like maybe later on in my career, I would have to be more confident in knowing that I actually can retain still all of this information.
Yeah.
Like that I could spend some of my time like part-time teaching and part-time like in practice. I definitely would be pretty interested in that. But I would definitely say like teaching, like the really unfortunate part is that like it doesn't pay as well as like working. But I would definitely say it's really rewarding. So I would consider teaching if I could, like as
I
like
mean,
a
as a job, I
part-time.
mean, like you kind of like study and then like as a way for you to like retain the knowledge, you teach it to like a classmate or something. Some people do that. Like they spend a lot of time by themselves and just like learning the information.
Hmm.
And they go to like study groups, and instead of like working together with them to like figure it out, they're like the ones teaching them. And it
Kevin
just
knows I've
reinforces
definitely
it,
tried to
so,
teach my roommate.
Yeah. But
And how'd
like
that go?
she's also PA or
She's also
Again.
a PA student.
And how'd that go?
Ah,
They retain the information. She started yelling at them.
are you guys in the same classes
No, it's
or
beta
what?
blockers.
Okay.
you
you go.
got it.
I forgot the context, but I just remember beta
Me too.
blockers.
See, that's what I'm
There's a heart
saying is that
attack. There's a heart attack.
that's why Kevin always remembers. Beta blockers apparently is like, I guess, an easy enough term for you guys all to like remember.
So
Just a
like
funny
what
term.
are the uses of beta blockers besides like some people use it for like puberty stuff, right? Like to reverse that, or not reverse, but like not let it happen, but like
No,
Wait, what?
Or-
no.
maybe I'm confusing with a different blocker.
No,
Like
puberty
no.
hormone
blockers?
blockers? Did you think of that?
No,
Maybe.
beta blockers.
Never
the
asking this
closest,
question.
the closest,
I'm like, oh, this is like unrelated, but
the
it is related.
closest thing that I
Sorry.
could think of for beta blockers to be anything related to puberty would be for hokum, and that's hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and that's
What is that?
you guys-
These
Hey,
big terms.
you guys have actually heard of this. Actually, it's when like a young kid suddenly drops dead, like when they're like you think of like that really athletic kid, right? And they suddenly like die of a
Faint?
heart attack, like, right? And you don't know why. It's like a genetic thing, and it's like caused by the fact that like the heart like septum is like really like
What,
for, like,
inflamed,
yeah.
enlarged?
like enlarged. Like it's
Mm.
just like, I don't know if it's called like fibrous, but it's just like the muscle wall is like super like thickened and stuff. And so what happens is that obviously impairs the way that the heart works by pumping. And so what happens is like, if you don't catch this on, because a lot of these kids are like asymptomatic until you're over exercising, like you're playing intense sports.
Yeah.
What you don't realize is that like by the time you're overexerted, the kid dies, you know? So that's why it's super important when you're doing your physical to be listening to the hearts, to listening to like the
Your body?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes, listening to your body, but also when you're doing a physical exam, listening to the heart, because
Oh,
with
okay. the
with
shakeups,
this
okay.
specific like disease, there's a murmur. And a murmur is
Mm.
basically like when you're listening
Irregular
with the
heartbeat.
stethoscope. Yeah, you can hear it through the stethoscope. And like that is actually one of the uses for beta blockers. And beta blockers, what they do is they slow down the heart.
Mm.
So you're trying to prevent the heart from overworking. So that's really what beta blockers are for. And that's one of the reasons why they're known to be like for like they're cardio med basically.
Mhm.
But I mean there's obviously other uses for it too, but it's
That's
mainly
what
known
it's
as
mainly known for,
mainly
okay.
used for, and that's why that's why you guys all know about it now. So yeah.
Okay.
Feel educated.
Yeah, for real.
This whole
Yeah.
thing's
Really are.
Educational.
It's an informative episode.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you learned that's like useful to like daily life?
Is your schooling useful?
I think everything. Because I mean,
No, I mean
it's-
like just like as a regular person, like if you weren't
The
working
day to day.
Just like outside
That's
the medical
so
field.
like
broad. I mean,
fun facts.
That's the point.
like-
I mean, it depends. Like, what do you mean? Like, in what context?
like I guess I don't know, like just like go through your day-to-day life, like any like fun facts that can help you like keep yourself healthy.
I
Or
mean, to be honest, like
maybe,
as
like-
bad as it sounds, like
because you're in sports, right? Like in
yeah, no, but as bad as it sounds, like we only had a couple of lectures about like, like healthy diet and exercise, because I mean,
Mhm.
like it's a given that like with like when you're talking about like care and stuff, like obviously like you're not trying to prescribe meds and the most invasive procedures as your first line of care. It's always lifestyle changes first. Like even when we're looking at lab values, let's say for like diabetes and stuff, like if they're like you guys know A1C, right? You guys probably have heard of that.
Yeah,
Like that's the
hemoglobin,
that's the
yeah.
blood marker that you guys use for diabetes. If they're like 9%, right? We're putting them like on insulin, like which is like way up here in terms of like strength, I guess you could say, for medicine and stuff. But like if their A1C is just like 6.5 and their like BMI is like 27 and they eat like crap, well, lifestyle changes first. I mean, like, and they lose like 20 pounds and they don't really need metformin, which is the standard med that you use for like first line treatment for diabetes. So our goal isn't to try to get everyone on meds. It's to like do lifestyle changes if we can. But yeah, like I would definitely say like that's more something I guess I would say I learned in college is like I learned when I was studying like kinesiology and like exercise science of like the importance of like exercise and like knowing like all those things. But in terms of medicine, I would definitely say like when it came for, at least for me, I guess like if I were to see patients, it was more like getting a really good history and background of the patient. So like when I would like, when I was like reading certain exam questions, like the way that I was like talking about it when with Kevin, actually, funny enough, was that I was like, oh, the questions are always the hardest for me. We're always the ones where we don't have like buzzwords. I'm sure you guys know like what buzzwords are like when you take exams where it's like, oh, like if I say like, what is the powerhouse of the cell? Like, you guys know what I'm talking about. Like, you know what I mean? Whereas I say like, oh, what is the, like, what's it called? I don't know. Like, what is the part of the cell that produces 32 adenosine, like
I mean,
triphosphate. It means
even if there was a buzzword in there, it wouldn't know.
It means the exact same thing, right? And like the thing is that like during the board exams, they're not gonna tell you powerhouse of the cell.
Yeah.
You wish, because a patient in real life isn't gonna go and tell you
the buzzwords.
Hey, I came into contact with this specific bacteria. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to get that. You're going to get subtle cues where like they're going to give you their background history of what they know. And like sometimes you don't even actually know the background history, especially when patients hit their head and fall and they don't actually have any recall of what had happened. But you know that if they hit their head, what are the possible things that you can rule in and rule out? Yeah. And it's really just about like problem solving and figuring out, okay, what are the things I can narrow it down to? And that's called differential diagnosis. So I would say that like one thing I learned was like really get a good history and physical, because I think that like for me, I noticed that I always get like really like tunneled vision where it's like person has a headache. I'm like, oh, it's got to be like this thing, the first thing I think of. But then you really have to like widen your scope. You don't like think about things like, oh, like you're like thinking of this person having a headache and you're like, oh, it's got to be like, I don't know, like this type of headache or whatever. But like, you're like, oh, this person could have like withdrawal from caffeine, because they're drinking a bunch of caffeine, or like they could be like, like on their, like they're on their period or something like that. And they can have like premenstrual like cycle stuff, or they have like even things like honestly, like depression, like they don't like a lot of times like depression symptoms aren't necessarily the stereotypical like symptoms that you would think of, like this person's always crying and sad and not eating. There's actually even what we got tested on actually for our psych unit. Like it was like one of the questions, it's atypical depression. So like you get weight gain, you get like lethargy, which I mean, I guess that's a typical symptom, but like you get like weight gain where most of the time when you think of depression, you think of like, you're not eating and this person's like sad and always
mood.
like lonely and stuff. And so like, it's kind of like really interesting to me when I'm like learning all these like atypical presentations. So it's just kind of really cool to like think about like, oh, you need to like widen your scope, because like every single patient that comes towards you isn't going to be your textbook type of patient. So you need to kind of think more broad terms. So it's like if a person has a headache, you can't just be thinking about neurological.
You probably gotta like retrace steps. Like how did this?
Yeah,
like,
retrace steps. You can't just be focusing on neurological conditions.
Right.
There's like I said, if it's your period, that's technically women's health. You're going to OBGYN. If you're talking about depression, that's technically going to psychiatry. So you really have to think really broad. And I think that's what I was saying about like, if there's one thing I could take away is that like, try not like I would say that there's one thing to take away is like when you have certain things that are going on, be thinking that it might not just be like that going on, it could be something else. You might not realize what it is. So if there's it's not like a specific thing that I learned, but that's like I guess something overall lesson that I guess I learned. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I remembered like one of the like because I was asking if you had any like fun fact things that you could share? Because I remember you were telling me earlier that like eating things that are like burnt like has like a certain amount of like
This guy.
carcinogens.
Yeah,
and
it was
Oh,
like
you
some,
weren't
like,
here when
No,
you-
yeah, I was like, huh?
yeah.
So
Oh,
like,
you were-
he had like
Like
your
a-
steak.
I mean, like a
cheese
sandwich,
steak,
and I
it
put some
was-
like burnt.
that
slightly
wasn't
burnt
that
cheese
wasn't
on
that wasn't
the-
something that
yeah,
I
on the
learned
outside.
in school. That
Oh,
was
so
just an
something that you
article that I read
learned.
online. I
It's
feel
like-
like that was just something that I like read online, but like
Okay. It was interesting. Now I'm kind of like paranoid about like
Wait, what was it?
Yeah, Tiffany, tell Dom and the audience what we discussed.
it's just
for the-
basically like saying like if you're like constantly eating like food that's like getting roasted or burnt, like it's pretty like carcinogenic, which is just like, you know, like, or it like increases your chances of getting cancer.
Oh,
like you don't
yeah.
really want to be bringing like taking in things that's always like.
What about people that like meat?
like
well
taking in
done?
fumes.
It's literally burnt.
Damn.
People like
it
want
should
well
be going
done
to the
meat.
garbage.
Yeah.
No more
So
well done
it's
steaks.
yeah.
Rare only.
Yeah.
I mean, cook it thoroughly, but
Should
don't
be illegal.
constantly burn it. Maybe
Yeah.
like don't get it so charcoaled. You know, like I wouldn't say like it's okay to have that once in a while. Like, you know, 4th of July, if you're having it, like I think that's
But
okay.
like the saying I'm trying to get is like, oh, you should probably not have it cooked well done. You should have like medium well or medium rare.
It doesn't have to
rare.
be like medium well like or rare. Just like you can cook it through, like just don't be like crisping it to the point where like you can see like black charcoal.
That's the point of being well done, though. It's literally like burn.
Not necessarily.
It's
like
just dry. It doesn't have to be burnt
I
necessarily.
don't eat well done, so
I don't
know.
eat well done either, but the idea of just having
I get it
medium,
medium well.
I usually get medium. Like some
I don't
bacon there.
know. I mean, yeah, I mean that's like what I like read online with the article and stuff, which I mean like it like it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, like just don't be doing it like every single meal. It's not gonna like kill you if you do it like here and there a couple times a week or whatever. But it's like if every single meal is like that, I feel like it probably will have like cumulative effects.
Is it
But-
kind of like Diet Coke, where like they say it's like it's like cancerous or whatever, but like so like they've really been egging people on to like not drink Diet Coke every day, but then like they did further research. It's like you have to drink like 20 cans
Yes,
of Diet Coke
yeah,
before it
you
becomes
re-
a problem.
Yeah, because you have to really think about like when it comes to like research, like the context of like how the research is performed. Because when you're doing research and stuff, like what are they testing on? Rats, like well, like with rats and stuff like that, like the amount of quantity of like sucralose that you have to like consume is like nothing compared to like a human. So like, yeah, you would have to drink that much of Diet Coke, and I would hope that you're not drinking that much Diet Coke in a day. So like
A lot of
yeah.
people do.
I love that.
It's definitely like an obsession.
No, but yeah, what I would say, like if you drink a Diet Coke, you're not gonna die of cancer. But
Mm.
like
Mm.
you
Unless
know,
it's that one that makes you.
but like I think you really should be drinking your water first before
RNG
your
wasn't
Diet
on your
Coke.
side that
So
one. Diet Coke.
The gotcha guys let you
Yeah.
down.
yeah, but like you know, like it's like one of those things that I'm like, don't like, I guess like, you know, like
Overthink about everything you do.
yeah, don't overthink about everything you do. Like I would say like, you know, like it's just like when it comes to like diet and exercise, it's just like, especially like if you're talking about like diet and stuff, it's just like, just try your best to eat like whole, like unprocessed foods the best that you
Right.
can and stuff. Like
Kind of hard.
obviously don't
Right.
like,
Yeah.
don't be like eating every single meal of like processed like you know foods with like nitrates like bacon or something, or like red like more specifically like red processed meats, where I'm talking like you're talking about like your like ham and like your what's it called like bacon and stuff like that, where
Mhm.
that's like pretty unhealthy. But like honestly, I wouldn't say like steak and stuff like that is gonna like be that unhealthy for you, because if you think about it, like back then, like they're hunting and stuff like that, like
Mhm.
you know, like they should have all died from colon cancer back then too, you know. So like I would say like, because that's like steak and stuff like that, that's a whole natural food. Like bacon with all that nitrates added, that's
Mm.
not a whole food, you know.
So
That's
would you have
with
to look for
additives.
organic bacon or something?
You
like that?
could, and then like nitrate free stuff, which I mean, like once again, like I would say, like you know, you're entering that territory where it's like, you know, like it's so minor, where it's just like if you're having bacon once a month, like
Mm.
you don't need to be buying this special bacon. You know, I think it's just not worth your money and time. You know, and like I would say that that's not really worth it. Like if you're like drink. It's like the thing where they tell you like you shouldn't be drinking that much soda. It's bad for your teeth. It's a lot of sugar, right?
Yeah.
But if you're drinking soda like, once, twice a week and the rest of your diet's healthy, that's fine. Like you don't need to be going crazy about the sugar and all the other stuff. I think everything in moderation is really just,
This is the way to go about
the way
it.
to go about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, I just don't think you should stress about it. So it's just like if you eat bacon, like, like once a week or whatever, like you don't need to be going out to buy special bacon, really. Like, I just don't think that that's the thing. However, if you're always eating bacon, like one, like probably rethink your diet, and two, like if that's seriously like something that you cannot change, like, or you're like really like you just can't make that change right now, then yeah, switch to a better alternative.
I love bacon's on my burgers though. That's gonna be
Yeah, but like you don't eat a burger every day, right?
There was a stretch where I was like eating a burger for like 2 weeks straight.
Yeah, but like once again, like 2 weeks in the like grand scheme of your whole entire life, like that's not going to impact that much.
You gotta up your numbers.
Yeah.
So, like,
3 weeks now.
what are the
Yeah, if
downsides
it's
of
like 10 years, I'd be like, all right, you're good.
Bacon, bacon every day for the past.
what are the
Where's-
downsides
oh.
of nitrates specifically?
To be honest, I don't really know the answer to that. I just read about it. Like I think that for what I was told in school, it had to do with like the process. Like red meats had more to do with the risks of like colon cancer, but like I don't know the pathophysiology behind it. You would have to ask someone who's better and more well informed and
So,
research
like,
for that.
Why do you think like this is like allowed to be like, like when you go to a grocery store, you walk in, you look at like all of the options in front of you. Like I would argue like 75% of like what you could pick out is probably like not good for you, or it's just like empty calories or overly processed. But then like, I mean, like, is there like kind of like a future for like Americans that are just wanting to
Eat healthier.
eat healthier? Because you might think something's healthy, but it's just
If you
full of
read
like
the-
Yeah,
preservatives,
you read the back of it.
Yeah.
high
You're like,
fructose
whoa.
corn syrup. Even like bread is just like there's a lot of like
I wonder where that came out.
yeah. There's like a high fat percentage in like the bread. It's like it's just supposed to be like wheat, but there's a lot of additives that make it like not healthy anymore.
Mhm.
Yeah, I definitely feel like a lot of like processed food is really just engineered for like taste, and like there's even like science to back it up that like they have food testers to like
Yeah.
make sure that it's addictive, like with potato chips and
whatever.
everything.
Oh.
But
Like hot
I would-
Cheetos.
yeah, like and
Good
everything.
old Red 40.
But
Yeah.
I don't really know because I mean
Might get banned.
that's more like
I saw
the
that,
food
yeah.
industry, but like in terms of like what people could really do about it. I mean, like we as like I know like for medical providers, the best like we can really do is like kind of just give you like a guideline about it, like or refer them to like dietitians and nutritionists really. Cause like I mean, I didn't do my bachelor's or like master's in like nutrition, but like
Mhm.
I would say like the easiest guideline that I could give to somebody is like, if it's fruit, if it's a vegetable, if it's a whole food, like, base off of majority of your diet, like 80% of it off of like whole foods if you can. Just try not to make it so overly complicated. Think of like your rice and think of your potatoes and think of like your green leafy vegetables and, and your fruit, bananas, oranges. Like you don't need to go so crazy with non-GMO and all the other stuff. Like I don't eat non-GMO like this or that, and I don't have to go all the way to Trader Joe's to buy the most expensive exotic pear in the world. Like you don't need to do any of that. And like I'm like quite healthy and stuff, and so like I just think that like you're really like it's I guess majoring in the minor when people are like trying to create videos about health and fitness and really overcomplicating it, because I feel like people want to overcomplicate it because that's marketing, right? Like that's what gets the views and stuff. But I really think that if you just because you're not gonna be able to make money if you tell people, hey, like just go and buy some potatoes from the store, buy some vegetables and buy some like lean meat that only costs you like $50 grocery bill. No, I'm gonna sell you this. I'm gonna sell you this keto MCT oil powder, and like keto is the way to like do all this crazy stuff. And these people don't have any like like biochemical like what's called like biochemistry background or whatever. They don't have a PhD, don't have any of that. And they're spouting all this nonsense to you, telling you that is the way to manage your blood sugar levels. They're not a doctor. Like they don't have any credentials. So I just don't think that that's something that they really should be talking about. And like, I'm not saying this to like give advice, because once again, like some people do really well on certain diets than others. And I'm not trying to tell people you should eat this or eat that, but like, I think that it's something that you can work out with a registered dietitian or nutritionist and stuff. But I think that it doesn't have to be expensive. Like, I think that like a lot of people get this influence that like, or they're under this impression that, oh, like in order to be healthy, you have to buy these expensive like supplements, or like eating healthy is expensive, when it really doesn't have to be. Like, I just think that like, oh, like no matter what you say or like, or whatever that you're going to eat, or like what your diet is, like someone in the comment section, right, is going to tell you like, this is going to kill you. This is going to kill you. Right. I like when I said the comment about like the burnt thing, I'm just like saying like, not to say like, oh, you can never eat burnt things ever. I'm just saying
like a risk factor.
Like just like don't constantly be eating this, right? Like I'm not saying like don't like always do that, because I know that you do eat your sandwiches a lot. Like so like
calling me out there.
Yeah, so like
I'm not afraid to admit it. I love sandwiches, man.
Yeah, so like I was just saying
It's
it like
different.
not saying like, oh, like you can't ever like eat those things, but I'm just saying like stick to your basics, like your fruits, vegetables, and all the other stuff. It doesn't have to be expensive. Like honestly, like my grocery bills are like, you know, like anywhere from like
We're
50
going
to
to
100 bucks.
Costco.
Costco's a different story, but like when I go to Walmart, they're like 50 to 100 bucks.
Well,
Yeah.
buying is big, but yeah, it's like, oh, just drop $500 on groceries.
But yeah,
well, at least I have to buy for
but
like 2
healthy
months.
whole foods really just the key. Like, you know, like even like canned tuna is not that bad. Just if you're having it in moderation, you know, like you're not constantly having like a bunch of like tuna. Like if you have like once, twice a week, it's not gonna kill you. Like, you know.
My saying in life is, I'm not here for a long time. I'm here for a good time.
Eat
So
more
might as well live it up.
Eat more bacon.
Exactly.
Drink some chunks of Red 40.
Yeah, exactly.
Or some powder, whatever it is.
I don't know about y'all, but I know like plenty of people that eat like really crap food every day, and like they're like in their mid 70s, early 80s, and it's like,
yeah, I mean Warren Buffett eats it's like McDonald's.
You said Warren Buffett. Dang, he is going to the buffet then.
Yeah.
That's a good name.
Oh my god, I think it's Buffett, but I think I
Buffet,
was
but it's spelled buffet.
but spelled buffet, yeah.
Buffet's better though.
it reminds me of like, you know, like
It's
the show,
like that. It's like
That's better. That's better.
you know, like Friends, like the character Phoebe
who
Buffet.
said it was buffet? Was it
Oh,
no,
but
it was. I think it was it Shalom that said it was buffet, or was
No,
it
this is
someone else?
Idol. Like he worship. He
I
kind
feel
of
like
like
someone
Sorry.
else
No, he
said it was
says Warren
buffet, and then I
Buffett.
think I
Yeah.
said it was
Buffet.
Warren
Buffet.
Buffet.
Fighting the war in the buffet.
Oh no, I think it was my dad that said it was buffet. I think it was my dad who said it was buffet.
That's forgivable. I mean, like,
No, my dad said I think it was my dad, because like he kept like he read like all of his like autobiographies.
Stuff like
yeah.
that,
Yeah, so it was kind of
Yeah.
funny because I think he would always say Warren Buffet. So like as
Yeah,
a
that's how it's
kid,
spelled.
I
Yeah,
got
it's spelled
so
buffet,
yeah, so I kept so in my head I kept thinking Warren Buffet, Warren Buffet, Warren Buffet. But like now I know it's Warren Buffett, but I keep
Yeah.
thinking Warren Buffet in my head.
Nah,
it's
I
kind of
just
like
took a
muscle
buffet.
memory, but
Yeah.
for your like
Yeah,
brain.
so like when I say it, it just doesn't. When you say Warren Buffett, it doesn't sound right because it feels like you're cutting his name off short. You know, like it's too harsh at the end. Like buffet.
Oh.
Like,
Forget
you
the
know.
T.
I like
Warren
buffet better
Buffett.
because it like
It
rolls off the
sounds,
tongue.
it
You know,
sounds more smooth at the end.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
Like,
no, it just flows.
it sounds very demure.
But yeah.
Oh, you want a new word?
Yeah, no, but it's funny because my dad was talking about it. He's like, yeah, you don't need to be eating that healthy. He's living till like 100 like years old, and he eats McDonald's every single day. So
Did you guys see in the Super Size Me? There's that one guy that had like a Big Mac every day, and I think they had like on the one McDonald's he went to, he had like Big Mac guy. I don't know his name. Let's say Big Mac guy. He's
Yeah.
like, oh, this is your 10,000th Big Mac in a row. I'm
Jesus.
just like,
Yeah.
that's disgusting.
Bro,
Yeah.
But people are like that. He was like super skinny.
How?
well, here's the thing
You
though.
count
It-
calories, I guess.
Yeah.
He's like, my one meal, my
Right,
one meal,
one meal
is
a day.
a Big Mac only.
That's why I'm using all my calories.
Yeah.
But you have to realize like health is like very multifactorial. Like it's not just about your diet. There's sleep, there's stress, and even just like there's things that you have to take into account that's not as like that you don't really think about, like also like your social well-being, like how
Mhm.
many like close people do you have in your life, you know what I mean, like that you can turn to talk to, like there's other like your psychosocial like part of your life that's
Mhm.
important. So there's so many other things. I forgot, it was like an article about it where it's like, oh, like not like if you don't have like a certain number of people that are close in your life, it's like worse than smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. I don't know if that's actually true or not.
That sounds cap.
It sounds cap to me.
Unreal.
Sounds cap to me.
For
But
real.
like it's like I don't even know if it's actually true or not. But it's just like it is true though that like you're so like
That's just something you should.
it does impact you. I
factor
mean,
in.
like there is like it's funny enough as it is, I'm the one thing that I can think of like medically that's actually like that I know that it's true is like there's something called Tasako Subo, whatever, like
Which is what?
syndrome, which or something like that. It's like where you get like cardio, or you get like it's another type of heart condition where like you literally get like on an EKG like myocardial infarction or like heart attack, like EKG changes.
Beta blockers, right?
Beta blocker.
Blockers, right?
You do give the same medications that you would to these patients, but what it's called is actually like it's called broken heart syndrome. So like
Oh,
a lot of the
yeah,
classic
I've heard of that. Like
yeah.
some people die of
So
grief.
it's basically
and,
so
like,
basically they don't die from it, but it's like basically what they come in is a lot the classic like vignette that they give for the problems is usually it's like this older lady who's in like who like recently lost her husband and blah blah,
Mm.
and she's like having chest pain, and it's mimicking a lot of the symptoms of what you would think is a heart attack, right?
Right.
And so when you actually take the EKG like on the chest leads and everything, like and you actually like see it, it actually is what you would see in a heart attack. However,
wow.
it's temporary like changes. Like they will have like those changes that you will see like in that moment. You
Mhm.
still treat it obviously like the same way you would with a heart attack because you don't want possible complications.
Right.
However, you will see like if you know like obviously like they recover from like their like grief and all the other stuff, that those changes will reverse itself. Like they won't have like the permanent structural heart changes. I feel like that I'm pretty sure that like when you actually have like a heart attack that comes from coronary artery disease, which is usually what you stereotypically think of from unhealthy diet,
Yeah.
not having exercise and poor genetics. So there is an impact to like your social well-being, because there's like even things called like what we call like it's called like conversion disorder, where it's like you literally have like certain like your mental state or whatever, and like you can feel a certain way, and you can actually have physical symptoms as a way of like you're psychologically thinking about it and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Mhm.
Like I don't know if you've heard of this, but like there was like a lady who was like literally feeling a certain way where she was like feeling pregnant, and that like her stomach's actually like growing even though she's not
Wow.
actually like pregnant.
What?
Like you
That's
can actually
interesting.
you can
What?
actually like develop like physical symptoms if you're really like feeling like his your mind is so powerful, and
Oh,
it's
no
just like
doubt.
it's crazy. But like I mean, those are obviously the very, very extreme cases, but like those are your like unicorns, right? But like it is true that like you're like
So how does it work? The person's mind tells the lady she's pregnant. So like what
So she has
makes
to
her
really, really believe it
body
sounds like.
change into having like a baby grow in her stomach to that, like how does that, like does it, I don't know.
there's not a baby that's actually
Oh,
growing.
So she's just gaining weight? or
Well, no, I'm
whatever?
saying there is a baby growing, but like
Can you
she's just getting
imagine?
bigger, like she's getting fat
Yeah, she's
because
just
it's
gaining weight?
getting her
I don't
body
think
to
I-
adjust to being
I
pregnant.
don't know. I don't remember I just remember
Yeah.
there was like some sort of
That's
story or
interesting.
class was
It's
telling
wild.
about it. I just don't. I remember someone briefly mentioning it because
Yeah.
it wasn't something that was like it's not a heavy high yield topic we're talking about.
Well, yeah,
But
of
like I'm just
course.
saying like that is a possibility and stuff
But
like
it's
that.
like, how
One-
does,
one that
how does
was-
that
one
work?
that
The math
was
is
on-
not mathing. The math is not mathing.
One
with
that was tested on one of our exam questions was like not compartment. It was like complex regional syndrome, I think. And
Mm.
it's where so I remember because there was a question on it where it was like this in the story, it was like this one lady like slammed her hand on the car door. And so it's actually like what happens is like you get like a certain injury, right? Like a traumatic injury. And like in that moment, obviously, like I don't know if it hurts or doesn't hurt, but like it's okay. Like
I
it
think it would hurt. You should get your
like
hands.
no, I mean like it hurts.
Guys.
Like it hurts, but it's just like you would think it would hurt out of proportion in that moment, but actually like it like is like for them
more
it's like
afterwards.
it hurts a little bit, but they're like fine afterwards. But then like a few weeks later, they're like in so much pain, just like a few weeks later, and there's nothing that precedes it,
So
and
it's
they're
a
like
lag
having
of your body.
like
Real.
out complete pain, absolute complete pain out of proportion in that area that they were injured. It seems really, really weird. You can actually look it up. It's called like what's called complex regional like syndrome, I think it's called.
Mhm.
And it's basically
CRS.
the key about it is that you're getting extreme pain several weeks after the injury, not during the actual time of the injury.
incident. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
And the key to that one, because I remember that one where it's such a weird like vignette. And I just remember because I got that question wrong, and most people get that wrong, you know, because
Yeah.
it's not a very easy disease.
It's not
Something that you would read the question and you would know automatically what the disease is.
Mm.
And so like I remember because the question is asking what is the treatment for it, and it's really physical therapy, because these people really need to like get in and do physical therapy for this. And it's like I didn't really know why, but like I remember when I was listening to a podcast that was talking about it, they did talk about this specific disease. And like basically they're like saying like, oh, if you ever read in a vignette, like this patient has like these really vague symptoms and they're like sweating, like diaphoresis basically is what it's called, and like it's red and like blah blah, and they got injured like several weeks beforehand, but now they're experiencing extreme pain in that same area. You should really think of complex regional like what's called syndrome, and then you need to like have them do physical therapy, because I forgot the reason specifically like pathophysiologically why, but like it has more to do with the fact that like they're like experiencing like I would really, you'd have to really look that up. I'd ask Kevin to look it up, but if he has the laptop, you want to look it up? Look up like complex regional syndrome, I think it's called. It's like it should say something about like, oh, like you experience these symptoms like way after a certain injury. Yeah, it's called complex regional pain syndrome.
I thought it was R something. Oh, it's regional.
Complex regional pain syndrome.
Oh, there's a P now. Okay.
It's kind of interesting though.
Well, P for
CRPS.
pain because you're experiencing pain.
Well, we didn't say P before. That's why I just called it CRS. I was like, where's the P now?
Crips.
Complex regional pain.
Everything.
Like,
Just-
what is the pathophysiology behind
Just
it?
ask
'Cause I don't really know
ChatGPT.
why.
Probably would know.
Well, yeah, I just explained that, but why? like the reason why it happens, like, because I actually don't know why it happens, but
Yeah.
I just know that you need to get those patients into physical therapy. It's one of those like really weird instances. You're like, why would somebody have so much pain in that one area that got injured several weeks after?
Yeah, it's so strange.
It is really strange to me. I wouldn't know why, but that's why I was saying like he has to look that up, because we didn't really get taught that much about it, because it's not it's not like a major disease. It's not like diabetes, you know? But like that's one of those things where I'm like saying like that's like where I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I find that interesting, but
Yeah.
it's pretty cool like when you learn those things.
Is it similar to like, you know, like when boxers like they have a fight, somebody gets knocked out or they get hit in the face or like they had too much, they feel fine like the night of, but then maybe like a week later or even like years later, then like those brain traumas start showing up like decades after they've retired. I was wondering if it was something like similar to that.
I mean like what do you mean? Like as in like they have like memory issues or like
A lot of them like develop like Parkinson's. There's like memory issues. Some guys end up becoming like a lot more like violent. Like they start like beating like their family members almost because like the brain damage like changes them. But like in your case, it would be like more of like a physical thing where it might be like way later that the pain just comes out of nowhere.
I mean, there's like multitude of factors. Like one, you could think of like the actual trauma from the physical impact from boxers getting hit. Another one is you also have to think about like psychosocially what could have happened to like they're also under a lot of pressure as athletes. You have to realize you don't know what they're going through like you know, when they have to perform, like what kind of pressures are they like, you know, bless you. Like, what do they have to experience as well too? Like, you know, like you said, like, didn't you say something how like with certain boxers, like, oh, they're getting paid to like, I guess like lose certain matches or something like that. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but the damage is still real. They're just
But I'm
like
saying that's what I'm saying though.
so-
Like it's still just the fact that like you're one taking the impact, two like you're having to do that too. Like it's just a lot of stuff that's taking in like psychosocially and physical impact wise. So you have to take into account both things.
Mhm.
But like the physical like trauma from it, like if you think about personality disorders, I mean, first of all, your frontal lobe, that's where it is. Like there's like I don't know if you know the classic like AP Psych stuff, but like there's a guy who got like a pole ran through his head and then he has a personality change, right? So like you gotta think about like, well, where did this person get hit in the head? But like where did they fall and hit their head? Like it really is crazy. About like what is going on. And also like some people like you have to think about genetics too. Like some people like are just more prone to developing like dementia and Parkinson's is genetic too. Like some people have a resting tremor. So it's not necessarily just because they did boxing. So everything, take it with context, and genetics also plays a role. So you can't always say this causes this. You have to think about everything in a bigger picture.
I heard something like some people are more like they're more blessed genetically and like I guess like their like structure like on their head like is like stronger. So if someone punches them in the face, their brain doesn't rattle as much as somebody that maybe doesn't have as
I mean, yeah, I mean
solid like a structure.
just think about it this way. Like if you look at like some of the guidelines for health, like technically I think if you look at some sources, like the BMI for Asians even is like 23 for being like considered like overweight. However, for most like of the US, it's 25, like as you probably know, right? But like that's also because like on average, Asians have smaller like frames. Yes. Like the average Asian, usually if you go to like Asia, is a shorter build, much thinner, weaker bones. And like you even see that with like when we're like, I remember because like we had a lecture on it with our professor, like the skin is also different too. Like Asian skin is much more thinner and more delicate. So that's why they're like talking about like, oh, like when you're considering certain steroids to use, like with Asians, you have to consider their skin is much thinner. So if you use a super strong steroid, you're going to thin out their skin a lot more than like per se, like if you give it to like another person, like a Caucasian or something like that. So like you have to think about that as well too. So like, yes, that's true. Like with like your race, yeah, it does. Your race does play a factor too. So if you like, because if BMI impacts it, I'm sure like your skull would also be impacted. Like I'd imagine
Makes
so
sense.
at least. Yeah.
Is it like evolutionary? Like maybe like some cultures tend to like have like a certain like face shape or maybe like different like hair textures and like different skin colors. Like,
absolutely. Oh, probably.
Like,
probably absolutely. If you think about it, like why would like some people have like more hair than others in certain areas depending on like the weather, like where you live, you know? Like why would if you live in a really hot area, why would you want to be so hairy? Like you would die. You would be like dying in the heat. And like if you also like on the other flip side, you lived in like a really cold area in Antarctica, why would you not want to have any hair? You know, like it really wouldn't make any sense to me. And it's also just like as well too, like if you think about like the pigment of your skin and stuff like that, if you are like not able to, if you're like very like fair skinned, right, and you're constantly burning, you're going to increase your chances of skin cancer, like an insane amount. But like if you are like someone who tans really easily and all the other stuff or whatever, and that's just like your natural skin type or whatever, it makes more sense that like your ancestors probably were able to handle working outside a lot more, which is just evolutionarily more beneficial probably to you. Like that's what I presume. I'm not an evolutionary biologist, but I would imagine.
Did you learn
so.
any of it in school?
Yeah, makes
like,
sense.
Logic's there.
No, I didn't learn any of this in like school, but like
read articles.
No, I didn't read
Self-study.
articles. You have to take evolutionary biology as a pre-med and / pre-PA basically because they're the same classes.
Mm-hmm.
But like also if you just think about it logically wise, like it wouldn't really make any sense per se to like, you know what I mean? Like why would you have someone with so much hair like in such a warm area? It just doesn't
It
make any
happens
sense.
like in like South Asia. I'm pretty sure like
or Middle East.
yeah,
Oh yeah, true.
super hot, but like a lot of them have a lot of
And let
body hair.
alone they wear a lot of clothing as well,
Mhm.
just based on how
I mean,
their culture
I
is.
don't know if I mean, that's also like I feel like clothes is something they actually like chose to like wear though.
That's more of a culture.
That's more of a
cultural-
that's more of a
that's like
cultural thing. I
thing.
don't think that's like a evolutionary thing.
Yeah,
right?
but I'm
Like,
just saying,
I mean,
like, it's like basically being hairy because you have this excess amount of things covering your skin because of like clothing as of hair, like your arm hair. Same wearing like a long sleeve shirt that could be considered like hair and to that degree,
That
not
could
like
be
one to
true.
one.
that could be true. Or they maybe just I don't know, like you have more testosterone. I'm not sure.
Huh.
I've always been
usually
curious.
those women bundle up.
Yeah, I've always been kind of curious about like what leads to like those like differences in like because like I kind of assume that a lot of like why a lot of like let's say like Filipinos are short is because like evolutionarily like the past 100 200 years a lot of the kids are like underfed and then they end up becoming like smaller adults. But then like I know like a lot of the Filipinos that like were born here, maybe like first generation, they're like you see a lot of the guys are like 6'2", 6'3".
Malnutrition is
Crazy.
definitely one of them. I
Well,
would
just
say.
being like Africa too, and like
Yeah,
Haiti
yeah,
and
that's-
stuff like
that's
that.
true, that's true,
Underdeveloped countries.
Yeah.
I think that's a general rule for like all places.
Yeah.
yeah. I think that's
Yeah.
just for every area.
Unfortunate as it is.
Even in
Oh, yeah.
Africa, it's like it has like the largest variation of like you have the tallest people in the world in
Right.
Africa and the shortest people in the world are also in Africa.
Yeah,
It's
makes
kind of
sense.
crazy.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about evolutionary biology, but I would just assume that that's probably like my take on it.
Yeah.
It makes
Yeah.
sense to me logically.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like if you constantly burn, like I just wouldn't understand why if you had like fair skin, why would you have lived in an area with all that sun and you would have died from skin cancer.
Yeah.
Everyone would have died from skin cancer like right away. It just wouldn't make any sense because the Philippines is so hot. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you didn't tan that easily and you were fair skinned, like me and like Kevin or whatever right now, and let's say we burned really easily, like you guys
You're
you wouldn't make it.
Yeah.
Like
Hmm.
whatever. Like I know Irish people like burn super easily. I just don't think that they would have been working out in the fields for 24 hours, you know? Like it just doesn't make sense.
That's a little much. But
Doesn't make any sense.
I think like 12 hours to be sufficient. But
Hey.
No, I'm just saying in general, like it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, you know? Like they probably didn't because like
I don't think they did either. Who could do 20? I mean, people
That's a
do
lot.
24-hour shifts. But
I'm being a little bit extreme, but like you know what I mean.
Wait straight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Building off the
Yeah,
goofiness
but
of
like
it all.
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Because I just think that like it logically speaking, it seems like it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything about
But
it.
also Ireland, for example, you're saying Irish people, it's like more closer to the northern pole, so it's a little bit more chillier
Yeah.
up there.
yeah.
But I've never been there seasonally, so I don't know
But
how
you
their
can see that
summers
you
could
can
be.
see like as you go like up north, they're more pale. Like it just
Right.
seems like
Yeah,
a
no,
pattern.
makes
So that's
sense.
why I'm saying like I just think it on a general basis. I'm sure there's exceptions, like you said. Like if you go like Middle Easterners, they have more hair. I'm just saying
Mhm.
like a general trend.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
once again, you can't like say everybody's like this. Everybody's like
Yeah.
this. Everyone is different. But like
Mhm.
I'm just saying like as a general trend, it could be like that because it's just like when I say like oh like Asians like they say like the BMI like 23 or over is like considered like overweight or for that number. Once again, considering body composition, some people their BMI is 25. However, their body fat percentage is like 10% because they're an athlete.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm.
Taking into context what it is, you know.
Right.
So like when I say a general trend, I just mean yes, maybe like up north or something like that. That's all.
Mhm.
Yeah. Are you gonna get back into like lifting?
Me?
Anytime in the future?
I've been kind of
Heavy
lazy.
lifting,
I've been so lazy.
Not by choice though.
Yeah, you're really
You had a
busy,
lot of things
sounds
going
like.
on.
No, I definitely do want to get back into lifting. For sure. Yeah, definitely back into lifting, get back into badminton. Definitely going to, just be more active in
Yeah.
general. I think I definitely found that like playing sports is so much more fun, but I think that lifting is still pretty important. I'll still keep my routine at least, 2-3 times a week of lifting if I can.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. I just
30's,
think
like,
that
perfect
even if I
number.
don't really like it that much, like as playing sports, I think it's really, really important for like preventing injuries and also really important for bone health, especially as a girl. So I'll still keep it and still be doing it. Yeah. I'll be going back. Yeah. Thanks for reminding me. I've been lazy.
I think it's
yeah.
good for
New
like
year.
mental health too.
Yeah.
Just like
It's good for any exercise.
everything's
Is good for
kind of
mental
like,
health. So
no.
yeah.
So
All right.
Yeah.
I think that was our most informative episode ever.
no
Yeah.
doubt.
Feel educated.
For real. Learned a lot.
Yeah.
Especially like beta blockers.
Yep. How could we forget?
But yeah, that's the episode of Living Room, our last one of the year. Happy holidays. I'm your host, Dom, with Jason, Bryan, and Tiffany, signing out.
See you guys next year.
Hell yeah.
See ya.
Peace out, guys.
There you go.
Yeah.